think we would like you just share our view on autism and maybe even get into some kind of discussion. It's an open question because there is lots of different views. What is autism? What we know for sure, it keeps growing. And this is just one of the example statistics. It's based in US, but Europe is not far. It's really dramatically growing since 2000, especially. And again, we can argue the cases. Okay, we've got different diagnostic system now. We've got more criteria. We've got now diagnosed people who haven't been diagnosed before, and etc., etc. But what is also interesting depends what we actually mean by autism. We know that children with autism really sort of struggle in many different ways. And just again, to share a little bit statistics here, 63% of children on the spectrum don't have the best support in the school. That's a fact. And it's maybe even more because, as we know, the statistics, it's a little bit not up to date, very difficult to find the number of what's going on right now. This probably 5 years old, 4 years old statistics. 17% of autistic children have been suspended from school. Only 16% of autistic adults are in full-time paid employment, and only 32% have some kind of paid work. It is difficult to find work for anyone, especially when you are a neurodiverse person. 60% of teachers don't have adequate training to teach children with ASD. So how our children can achieve good results in the school when actually we don't have enough professionals who understand our children and who actually can work with them in an appropriate level. 35% of teachers actually think it has become harder to access specialist support for children with autism. And again, this is where very fragmented, the professionals working separately, educators, therapists, parents. So we working with the same children, but we're operating in a slightly different levels and different domains and don't communicate well enough the needs of our kids. So this is what about actually the person who's experiencing, but also the family is struggling a lot. And I'm sure you can extend this list and maybe can relate to some of that. Over nearly 77% of mothers raising children with autism report depression. Levels of depression in mothers were significantly associated with the physical health and quality of life. Of course, if we're depressed, all our well-being is suffering. Fathers of children with kids with autism suppress their feelings most of the times at the cost of anger outbursts. So the guys, they are suffering different way. And very often they've got some health issues as a result of that. Young siblings are more likely to be withdrawn and have a poor social skills. They often develop slow socially and emotionally. Again, lots of studies show that siblings really suffering because, again, everybody is impacted by individual with autism in a family. So what we think is actually autism, let's sort of discuss it openly. When you receive diagnosis of autism, your child been through the process, so it's not just about they're looking the symptoms, how the behavior is, how the learning process, the focusing, and etc. So all these really sort of a final symptoms, but actually what is it contributing to these symptoms? There is different levels. The child performing, how the child performing on physiological level, and that's where he sleeps, he's eating, he's going to the toilet pattern is important. And how the brain is wired. So there is like a real neurodiversity and also physiological symptoms, which really contributing to the final symptoms of the child. So if we kind of separate these two things, we can see there is a real autism is about real neurodiversity, how maybe the brain functioning and how talented and unique our children are, but the rest of the symptoms, picky eating is not about autism, insomnia it's not about autism, the constipation or diarrhea it's not about autism, the skin issues it's not about autism, but that's how lots of symptoms actually overlapped together. And somewhere I had a good slide here. So this slide really just one illustration showing how interesting different diagnoses, different conditions overlap with each other. And you can see here the autism in the middle, but it's really many other conditions really related to mental health kind of overlap, and that's why our children sometimes have more than one diagnosis. Yes, so for example 70% of individuals with autism also have one or another mental health conditions. Overlap with the ADHD between 20 to 50%, with the social anxiety 29%, with the general anxiety 13%, with the panic disorders, panic attacks 10%. So they all really sort of kind of come as a cluster. But in a parallel with that, we also have a different conditions and disorders, physiological, metabolic conditions like gut disorder, yes, digestive disorder, seizure, feeding difficulties, sleep difficulties, motor difficulties. So they're not about autism, they are just contributing. And that's why when we're talking about the symptoms and sort of a diagnosis and how whatever it's called, we need to understand that, just to put different filters. So then if we understand that, then it would really help us to put the action plan, how we deal with it. So that's what is really important for us to share with you. So our sort of a holistic view on autism is really, it is imbalanced behavior symptoms are signs of a functional disbalance of brain and body. So yes, it's all impacted, it's all comes together, they all influence each other, but it's not just a brain disorder, not just neurodevelopmental brain disorder, which is genetically driven, as often we hear. There is many factors which contributes to it on the body level, on the brain level, and then they end up as a unsocial behavior, anxiety, stress, depression, etc., etc.
Having children with autism or having child with any neurodevelopmental condition or any challenge, it puts us parents on a pathway of looking for solutions, looking for professionals, looking for what can help our children. And very often that's leading us to professionals who either have holistic view of our children and our home life and situation and society in general, or they have narrow point of view of the challenge that you're coming with, as I mentioned before, speech delay or meltdowns or global developmental delay or dyspraxia, and addressing narrow needs and narrow problems. But what we worked through and understood from working with other professionals, working with educators, working with parents, and between ourselves and as well personal experience, we developed this view of our children like a seed with the potential to grow in and flourish into something amazing. So our children at the beginning, just like a seed that needs nourishment and needs care, attention, and each individual tree needs different soil, needs different conditions, but there is something in common. Every seed and every sapling to grow into a tree and bear fruits need nutrients, needs nourishment, and as well water, And sometimes in environment, you can get into parasites and toxins. If you look at this schematic view, and it may have other environmental factors inside around it that either hinder the development or nourishing and helping development of that tree to get to its optimum potential. And as well, there's other conditions like water condition and air quality and sunlight and wind and all other things. And even sometimes what we think could be devastating, like too strong wind, but without wind, without the air movement, the tree is not going to develop flexibility and plasticity and be able to withstand bigger winds that anyway going to happen. And that's one part of our view, is not looking at the child just from the prism of challenge that they may be presenting to us or they're experiencing themselves, but looking at the child and what's going on with them as a holistic point of view, and that when we can address different factors. So for now, if we look, I'm going to be an artist in a minute. And if we look, many people, many parents, they very often want to address challenges like eating problems or sleep challenges, maybe as well meltdowns. Another one quite common, for example, social anxiety.
Language development.
Language. So this is factors that very often parents come to professionals to address. But if we look through the development of the tree, we're looking at it as the outcomes of what's going on underneath on the root level. And on the root level, it's exactly those factors that are benefiting to those disbalances. For example, gut microflora disbalance or digestion problems. Then it could be as well body-brain imbalance or hormonal imbalance. There could be a toxicity that it's in environment, in the food, in the air, or maybe they were exposed to heavy metals in some way, depending where you live and what kind of lifestyle your parents were leading. So possibly heavy metals or other toxicity. You see, we are real people. Stress is a big one. And stress, one of the big one that leads to steaming. And that's one of the ways how our children deal with stress. It could be internal stress because of the overstimulation. It could be stress because of what's going on at school, at home, or it could be just the way they regulate themselves, but they need exactly that way to regulate themselves. And if they would be in a balanced, regulated state, they wouldn't need to steam. If that makes sense. Okay, let's
can I just add another route little bit quicker, because I'm sure the parents got this in mind. What about genetics? Genetics would be one of the route, but it's only one route. It's not the main issue. It's just a contribution, because there is no clear genetic association between autism and specific genes. There is a lot of different hormone mutations which playing the role and blocking the main biological functioning in your body, like methylation, detoxification, inflammation, oxidative stress. Those ones needs to be sort of checked, because then they can sort of provoke blockages, specific blockages, and it would be very important contributing factor for all the Olga draw, at the top of her wonderful picture.
Thank you for appreciating my artistic skills. So, and as we said, however, the existing medical and education and even social care system addressing mostly the topical challenges, and this gives fixing focus. And we want you to get different point of view, because you parents, you actually the ones who are at the root of your child's well-being, at the root of them developing healthy, and you at the position, a really privileged position. You know your child the best, you know your family situation the best, you are the person who mostly with your child, and you are the expert. You have the potential to influence the root system. You have a potential of what's going on in terms of toxicity, in terms of health, nourishment, water, and other things. And that puts you in a really privileged and really strong position comparing to all the other professionals who you ever going to work or working with. And this understanding, what we're sharing with you, if you acquire yourself with that and with confidence, you're going to be able to work with other professionals to the highest benefit of your child, and addressing right interventions at the right time, understanding where the root cause is, socialized on the highest level. And then as well, there is other core elements. Before developing those high advanced skills, there should be as well the core elements developed in any child, which is learning skill and effective communication and emotional regulation and independent self-care. So that's before those high functioning skills can develop. And this very often is being addressed through nursery, school, higher education, and other professionals. But we at home, we can actually establish this foundation that is first and necessary. Like, for example, with any child, before they can run, they need to start crawling, they need to start walking, and then they develop enough to be able to run. Same with our children. For them to be able to develop these core elements of learning skills and effective communication, and the high elements of as independency and advanced learning skills, they need to be the foundational base of their health and well-being, and their brain development and their cognitive development, their emotional development is at the foundation. And that's where the nourishment, assimilation of toxins and detoxification, and assimilation of all the learning in a healthy way is possible. And through that, what is important for us, for parents, is to be able to have a right attitude at home for ourselves and for our children, have a really strong support network, again, for ourselves and for our children. And this support network could be in a way of other professionals, your support group, maybe other parents, peer support group who understand what you're going through, your partner, your parents, get them into your team, and as well, you are your children's support network, and as well, self-care. Again, that's the very essential root element skill for your children to develop before they can develop other skills, and those skills are stay functioning. Because we as well, very often we see parents coming to us, and I work with many parents, for example, child moving from primary to secondary school, or from secondary to college, or any kind of change of environment, any kind of dramatic change of, or even moving house or new sibling, causes all the skills that it seems that they develop, even talking, communication, learning, and remembering, suddenly everything like a puzzle, like a cards house falling apart, because those systems that are above are quite fragile, and they're only able to be sustainable and stay stable if the base and foundation that we're giving to our children at home is stable and well established. So that's what exactly we want you to take from today's training. If you realize the importance of what you're doing at home and you put it in the right order, you're going to see that other therapists, other input of other educators and professionals, it's more sustainable. Okay, so now we're getting into our formula that we developed, as mentioned before, for our program, our 3 months program that as well possible for parents to complete in a longer time. But we developed formula that helps people to visualize and understand the foundational well-being for the child. And we realized that all the aspects of unwanted, let's say, behaviors and unwanted challenges that our children facing, they very often coming from imbalance. And with this graphic illustration, we want to show where the balance is and when the imbalance may come. So first of all, we need to have really clear intention on a balance for our children, on a balanced nutritional and support for them in the foundational level, in the root level. So that's first level. And at the first level, we have our attitude, our parental attitude, and our children as well attitude. The self-care, as we mentioned before, it's really foundational level, and support network. We covered that with our 3 graphic. And here as well, at the foundational level, it goes nourishment, it goes detoxification, and it goes assimilation. Yes, assimilation of all the nutrients, all the elements, all the knowledge, all the learning, all the things that we want for our children to acquire for their healthy, balanced development. So then from this base, we are going higher on the level 2, and this is foundational family level, this triangle at the bottom. So level 2, it's actually composition of our child within society and within family. So that's where all these 3 different areas holding our child's well-being in balance, and every part of actual child could get themselves out of balance, but we are here to protect and help them stay in balance. Society, for example, going to school and wrong environment for them can take our child out of balance, but we are here for our child. And as well, family, sometimes family can get into out of balance state, which is as well, life happens, and we can as a family get out of balance. And again, it's for us, for parents, to get as soon as possible for ourselves into balance and to bring that balance back to our children. And we established 7 essentials of the balance, and it's starting with the food. That's, we're going to come through each point differently, but that's really essential point. The food very often makes big change in our children's well-being, either one way or another, like a pendulum. Activities, what kind of activities from morning till evening, and regular activities our child is going through. Stimuli, what kind of stimuli? Is it our child overstimulated or understimulated, or is it harsh stimulation, or maybe it's just not enough? Emotions, what kind of emotions our child experiencing and observing and absorbing from environment, and what to do with it. Toxicity, again, toxicity from environment, toxicity from emotions, toxicity from stress. Sleep, another big part of balance. How unbalanced the sleep is, how to put it into balance, and what other factors affecting sleep. And habits. Here, what habits our child has, and these habits, are they bringing the balance or taking out? And as well, our own family habits, what exactly we teaching our children. And the highest level, level 3, it's integration of all these aspects into the focus, and having that intention, as we said in the first place. If you have this intention as a parent to keep those in check, keep those in balance. All right, so next, again,
the picture just as a reminder that parents at the root.
Yes.
That's the
Well,
levels, level 1, level 2, level 3. I think we because we really like that idea and imaging, we try to massage it from every different angle. So maybe one of you will remember one image, another will remember another one. So that's why we really try to sort of position it from a different point of view. Hopefully you'll really get it.
The main intention here is to really get you into a driver's seat and for you to get empowered and inspired and understand that you are at the really important state of your helping your child. You are having the biggest influence on the well-being. You have the best power. You know your child.